Hey, what's good, Priya?
I'm Leo. Nice to meet you, Priya.
Nice to meet you too.
Tell me about yourself.
Well, I'm a Tamil Swiss artist, currently living in London, and yeah, I just started my career a year ago.
So you're a Tamil Swiss artist. Like, how did you end up in London?
Well, I just got signed a year ago.
Cool.
And ever since I'm like traveling back and forth. And yeah, my life completely changed ever since. So I'm basically living the life right now. What about you?
Well, I'm from London. I'm from South London, but I live in East London now.
Yeah.
And I sing, write, and produce music for myself as an artist, as well as for like other people. I do a lot of stuff behind the scenes, writing and producing for other people, as well as my own artist project.
Mm-hmm.
And
cool.
yeah.
When did your story begin? Like,
as a musician. I
yeah.
would say probably when I was a kid, I started training in Indian classical singing. And I think that it really sort of began there. I used to like imitate loads of singers. Like,
Yeah.
I used to imitate my favorite singers like Lata Mangeshkar and Asha Bhosle, and also like Janet Jackson and Mariah Carey. And I used to like do really good imitations of them, and like my friends at school started telling me that I actually sounded like that singer. So that's kind of where my journey with music began. And then I started writing songs, and then I started like making beats, because I was very lucky to grow up in a corner of South London where there was a lot of other musicians. I think because the Brit School is over there, there's lots of like music people that live in that little pocket of South London.
Yeah.
And I became friends with producers, started making beats, started playing around with things, and one thing led to another.
Sick.
So yeah, that's kind of how I got started with music.
But were you born here?
Yes, I was. Yeah,
born and raised, okay.
I was born and raised in London. So yeah, I guess that kind of also gives you an interesting relationship with music, right? Because it's always around you, and like there's always gigs and things happening in the city.
Yeah, I envy you, because I was born and raised in Switzerland, and the music scene is really small.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's just my parents, they moved to Switzerland in the early 80s, and we were one of the first brown people in town.
I can't even imagine that. That's so crazy.
Yeah. And so I grew up between two cultures.
Right.
And I was living this Tamil life intensely at home.
Right.
So we would listen to Tamil music all the time, watch Tamil movies every day.
Right.
And the food was only Tamil music. Tamil food. And as soon as I stepped out of the house, it was the Swiss culture. And
which I can imagine is like pretty at odds with being Tamil and Tamil culture and everything. Like, what was that culture clash like?
Yeah, I mean, it was quite difficult, I would say, yeah. Because you just wanted to adapt with the majority and kind of suppress your background and never talk about it. And but there was just this one point where I started to embrace my background and culture as soon as I found other people like me, because there weren't many South Asians in town.
I think we all kind of go on that journey actually, because like I think we all grow up sort of feeling slightly embarrassed of our culture and feeling slightly like, oh, why do our families have to like celebrate their weddings in a certain way, or like, you know, the food that we eat, it smells different, it tastes different. and the people that you hang around with, you just want to kind of fit in with them. And then I think there's a switch that everybody has when as they grow up, they realize like the beautiful aspects of our culture, of brownness, of the food, the language, the history, all that kind of stuff. So does that feed into your music as well, would you say?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was never planned to integrate like Tamil music into my music. It just happened really organically one day in the studio. My brother, Jaffna Gold, is also my producer.
Oh, sick.
So, it was meant to be to fuse both cultures into my music, but also into my visuals and styling. Exactly. How would you describe your genre?
I would describe my genre as left field ambient R&B or left field pop. I guess I'm really kind of influenced by artists like Sade, by George Michael's older album. And thinking of more contemporary artists, I'd say I'm really influenced by artists like Caroline Polachek and Moses Sumney, Christine and the Queens. So my music is like certainly more ambient, dreamy, left field. And I think that for me, creating like a soundscape and a world and a sound which is very escapist and different to everything else, I think that's like my goal as a beat maker and a music maker. I'm talking just about the music itself. And the melodies and the stories I tell sort of hopefully enhance that.
Amazing.
So yeah.
But when was the moment when you were like, this is what I want to do? This kind of music.
Okay.
When did you find it?
Probably, that is a really good question. I don't know if I could put it down to a singular moment, but I think it's mostly seeing like and hearing George Michael's music, because I feel like it was such a blend of, and actually Sade's as well, because it's a blend of like really vulnerable, intimate, emotional songwriting, but also it's music that's inherently political because of their identities. And as a queer person myself, you know, as a queer person and a brown person, our identities are politicized whether we like it or not, right? Because to be queer is political, to be brown is political. Right. And I guess seeing that in artists like George Michael and Sade, I found that really inspiring, that you can, and also artists like MIA actually. That actually is probably a moment for both of us, right? Because for me, seeing MIA as a living, breathing pop star, I think was the first time.
Yes.
Scratch my last answer. I would say it was seeing MIA when I realized, oh wow, like you can do this as a brown person. As a brown person, you can actually tell your stories through music. Whereas growing up, I was just doing Indian classical singing, and where do you fit? Like maybe singing for films or for film music, but
it was the same for me.
Was it the same for you? Would you say MIA?
MIA, yeah. When I started the first
Wait, which is your first album? Which is your favorite album?
Matangi.
Okay, cool.
What's yours?
Kala.
Kala.
Yeah, I'd say Kala.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, the first time I saw her on TV, I was in India on a family trip. And when she released her first song, I think she shot it in Jaffna. And I was like, oh my God, who is this? And yeah, the whole world changed for me after that. And it just gave me like a lot of confidence that I could do the same thing, you know, we all can.
There's a real power in like seeing yourself kind of represented on screen. Like we always talk about diversity and representation, and I think really the thing about diversity and representation is it's about giving people hope and possibility to break beyond the kind of stringent boxes that we see ourselves in or that our cultures like place us in. or society places us in. So I think it's really cool that we both
I
had
just
that
thought
same moment.
It's crazy, like after MIA, like who was next?
No one.
No one.
Yeah, nobody.
And it's been like, what, 10 years or?
20? It's been a long time. I mean,
Crazy.
she's been out what, since 2004, 2003 maybe?
Yeah.
So she's been going for a long time, but I don't know, it's difficult to create a space for yourself in the music industry, I think.
Yeah.
How's that been for you? Like, what's been your journey in terms of like getting signed or like getting to where you are now? Like, what would you say it's been like?
Well, my story is like, when I was 10 years old, my father, he created a band, a Tamil band, and he played the tabla, and he forced me to sing. And my brother played the keys, and we mainly played Tamil songs, like cinema songs, at weddings. And at that moment, I wasn't really enjoying singing because I thought it was so difficult to sing Tamil songs. And
Well, Tamil songs are hard, by the way.
hard, right?
Yeah, they're hard.
And then I discovered Lauryn Hill, Brandy, and India Re, Music Soul Child. And after that, I just dived into this world and kind of lost myself. And my parents were very strict. Like, when I was a teenager, I was not allowed to go out and party with the other white kids. So for me, it was like, so the only thing was the music that I was able to escape in a way. And I spent a lot of time just listening to music and writing down the lyrics. And at that time, I didn't even speak English because Switzerland's first language is Swiss German. And then I memorized the lyrics and recorded myself. And that's how I really got into it. And then I remember there was this scene when my brother, I mean, he's a rapper, producer, and he was 20, I guess, and he played in St. Gallen, which is a small town in Switzerland. And he was like, hey, I'm playing this gig, you should sing, you should come and sing. And that was like the first time for me to get on stage and sing a song. So I wrote that in the diary, and I was like, this is my moment. I'm just gonna sing in front of a lot of people for the first time. And I left the diary open, and my dad, he found it, and he was like, where do you wanna go? And I was like, well, you know, to a birthday party, and birthday parties was always the excuse to go anywhere.
Right, okay. So there was a lot of birthday parties.
A lot of, every weekend. Like, how many friends do you have? And yeah, so it's like, yeah, well, I saw the diary entry, and it's not happening, you're not going. And I was 16, and I was devastated. I was like,
were you quite rebellious, or were you like, until
No.
that point, were you quite like, I'm gonna listen to my parents and only do what they say, or were you like, I'm out of here?
Yeah, I was listening to my parents a lot because my brother, he's very rebellious. And
So you were the good child?
I was good, I just didn't share everything.
Right.
So I was like balancing. And so from then onwards, I felt like I'm just not gonna share anything about music or where I perform or what I do until I reach a certain level. 10 years later, I was like, okay, parents, this is what I want to do.
What did they say? I mean, I'm curious to know what you're going to say about that, considering that your dad is obviously a musician and that you sang and performed with your brother and your dad. Like, how did your parents handle you wanting to do it professionally? Because I think a lot of people are like, oh, yeah, fine, music, have some fun with it, but it's not a profession. So how was it for you? I
mean, I never gave up my 8-to-5 job. I always kept it. So I tried to balance both. until I felt like, okay, now it's time to let go the 8 to 5 job.
Right.
And so I did it until the end. So I just quit my job in May 2021.
Right.
So I think my parents, they still don't know. I just said I'm on unpaid leave a year.
Oh my God, your parents still don't know?
They don't know.
What do you mean they don't know?
Well, they don't know that I quit my job.
Okay.
Yeah,
but they know that you do music.
They know that I do music.
Because that would be crazy.
They love it. They're proud. But yeah, what about your parents?
So it was kind of so they knew that I sang, right?
Yeah.
And that was fine. And I think they were quite encouraging of me sort of singing Indian songs.
As long as it's classical.
Yes,
it's fine.
this is it. So so they would, my mum still sort of says when there's guests over or whatever, if I'm at my parents' house and there's guests over, my mum will have this embarrassing moment where she'll like drag me into the front room and be like, can you sing this song, sing some Asha, sing an Imran song or something, and then I end up having to like sing an Imran song in front of everybody.
Were you enjoying it or were you crying and then singing at the same time?
I mean, it's always a bit embarrassing because I'm just like, what's happening here? Like, is this for you or do people even want to hear this?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of always a bit of a cringe moment when your parents force you to do something, right? But then I think for me, my dad really wasn't into the idea of me doing it professionally. Neither was my mum, but I think it comes from a place of trying to protect their kid from like, an unstable future,
Of course,
or like, because the creative industry is unstable and there are no guarantees. And of course, like being immigrants, they obviously our parents want to give us the most sure shot at a stable future. So I get it, but I didn't understand it obviously when they first said to me that, no, we don't want you to do this. But there's only so much that you can do in terms of listening to your parents, I think. You have to, at some point, you have to figure out who you are and forge your own path.
Yeah.